game. You'll be back at it before you know it, and Boxing Day is rapidly approaching. So we all await the start of the tournament. We can't wait for it, and we wish you nothing but success as always, Dave. Thank you for doing this.
My pleasure. Really appreciate it. Thanks.
You got it. Dave Cameron, the head coach of the Canadian World Junior team. A little tune-up last night. Easton Cowan with a hat trick. Gavin McKenna had a couple of dangles last night that were pretty phenomenal.
He's going to be a good player.
Yeah, he looks like he might be worth the old maybe I'll tank next season type routine. Like look at these moves by this kid. Like that's the thing. Like, you know, we've had the tanking conversation, and you talk to people in Chicago, they love that they have Bedard, but they hate the fact that the team is such a mess still.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know how you handle it next year, and I'm not going to sit here and predict who could be in the position to do it and chase him down. But McKenna, Craig was on yesterday. Craig Button said he's the best player in the country right now. Best junior player in the country right now. If that's the case today, what's he going to be by next year? I mean, the kid's going to be a back-to-back World Junior player, and he's racking up points that are like Crosby levels and McDavid. Like it's crazy what he's doing. He's a player, that kid.
There'll be a few teams that'll be in that bucket to go, you know what, like if we're going one way, let's take our foot off the gas here and try and head down that. This Celebrini player, he's a player too, man.
Oh, yeah.
Like San Jose's got themselves a nice player. Like he might help speed things up there a little bit because he doesn't look overwhelmed. And it'll be interesting to see whoever gets McKenna. Like that's early on. I'm trying to take a little bit of a breath with Bedard because I think he's on the Nathan McKinnon pathway.
Yeah,
where
it seems
first
that way.
couple years, you know, not as dominant, and then just overnight I felt like, and it wasn't overnight for McKinnon, but McKinnon went from like a 60-point level to like 90 to 100 points, you know, over a summer. I felt like where he just turned a corner. I think Bedard's going to get there with the team around him. Celebrini, you know, this McKenna, Canadian hockey is still in pretty good hands. I know people always like to, you know, say, you know, it's a world league, all of that. Like, and I get it, but there's some fantastic players.
It's the goalies,
Canada.
Noodles.
Well, you're right.
But now they might be on their way.
Last night.
But that's
they might be on their way with these three kids.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
You know?
Well,
I mean, it's still
listen,
it's 5-6 years away before any of them will be playing for the national team, but still.
Right. That's the thing. Like, you hope that these guys are good enough to at least grow with the group, because I think, you know, players, if you ask me, and I've talked to lots of scouts throughout the league, you know, it's easiest to make it to the National Hockey League as a forward, right? Because you can be hidden a little bit as a winger. Well, really, not as a centerman, but as a winger. Then a defenseman, then as a goaltender. So goaltenders, it might take them 6-7 years to become an everyday guy, like a Joseph Woll, who's 25, 26. Like, you know, think about it. If you're drafted out of junior at 18 and you're just making the NHL at 25 or 26, that's 3 contracts. And that's a lot of time where a team looks at the goaltender and goes, when is this guy ever going to break through? That's the biggest challenge for goaltenders that are drafted either high or drafted by an organization and they draft and develop them. It takes a long time for a guy to arrive, where we see the impact of McKenna or Celebrini or Bedard. Obviously, those guys are special. But there are some good goalies. It just may take them till they're 25 or 26 for the light to go on.
Well,
you know?
That's why you wouldn't maybe necessarily want to pick them in the first round, because, like, am I going to be around for when this guy comes?
Yeah. It's the biggest challenge for scouts. They always are scouring depths. You know, Jordan Binnington's a prime example. Man, he was a 4th or 5th depth chart goaltender for the St. Louis Blues, and then he ends up pushing through, helping to win a cup, and now the rest is kind of history. But there's lots of goaltenders. Anthony Stolarz is a prime example. He played for Edmonton, played for Philadelphia, played for Anaheim. He wasn't a number one. He wasn't a guy that they trusted every night, but, man, he looked really good when he was playing for the Leafs this year so far.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, he sure has. All right, we got Mike Johnson coming up in 20. We've got Luke Wilson still to come later this afternoon. Al's brother as well, a bunch of picks, a couple of Saturday games in the NFL, games in the NFL on Sunday. And the Raptors losing last night, the Chargers with a big win. There's a lot to get into as we move forward. Overdrive continues, TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, Mike Johnson coming up. Luke Wilson still to come as well. But it is time for you to tell us where Al's brother was hiding this week. Where has Al's brother been all week? Call us right now at 416-870-1050. 416-870-1050. The first caller through with the correct location wins a pair of tickets to see the Leafs take on the Jets December 23rd. That's this Monday at 2 p.m. All right, there you go.
Do you have the answer now?
Do we have the answer? Do I have the answer?
Yeah.
I think he's in the distillery.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, pretty sure that's where I actually don't know, but I'm pretty sure that's where he is.
Well, some of his clues have been really soft. Like, I'll be honest. Like, there's been some really tough ones and then some other ones where I feel like he's mailed it in that week.
Yeah.
I don't know if this one, I missed yesterday's, so, it wouldn't surprise me if he said he was just standing in a bar in the distillery district.
I think he was doing the hot chocolate thing, which I don't understand how hot chocolate became associated with going to the distillery. But I guess my understanding is there's some spot there that makes like really cool types of hot chocolate. It's all an Instagram thing. It's all TikTok and Instagram. If something starts to go viral, that's what is going to happen, right? Like that's where people have to be to say that they got the hot chocolate and hey, look at the tree. Because the distillery is a cool place.
It is.
I've been to weddings down there. Really, really cool place. But outside of the tree, what am I getting around Christmas where I have to line up for 2 hours to get in there? Do you have an answer for me, Jonas? You're a downtown guy.
I don't think I've actually ever gone there for the Christmas thing just because of that. I just don't get like what I'm gonna wait for.
I don't know what I'm getting either. I'm purely ignorance. And to be clear, I have been down there during December. This would have been a decade ago. We went for dinner. It's a cool spot. The distillery is a really cool neighborhood. Really, really cool.
Yeah.
But I don't.
It's to get in the spirit, I guess, right?
Yeah, I guess so. But the idea of waiting in line, people are waiting hours to get inside to like the cobblestone area, not into a club, not into a show, into the area.
People did that for when Chick-fil-A came to Toronto and Krispy Kreme donuts or whatever. I remember remember when Krispy Kreme was like
massive.
Like I went to the original one, I believe it's in Anaheim. Like it's right by the rink. So years ago went there and those were like piping hot. Like it was
They were on a great donut.
But the lineups for that were just out of control.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like you had drive-throughs like going like 50 cars. It's like, are we doing this really?
Out of control. Like great donuts, but out of control.
Yeah, they were. Yeah.
All right, so we're taking a break for the holidays, but another chance to win Al's brother. Not to win Al's brother, although that'd be quite a Christmas
that would
gift.
be awesome.
Al's brother's moving in with you and your family. Open the back door. He'll be quiet. He'll clean up after himself. That's what we're giving away this year. Surprise. Al's brother is moving in with somebody. But yeah, find Al's brother, and you can win more Leaf tickets starting in the new year right here on Overdrive. And, of course, it's brought to you by McAlpine Ford in Aurora. Our family, the Ford family, and you. All right. So we'll hear Lindy Ruff on what he expects the crowd to be like tonight, what kind of impact it could have on the game. Leafs Sabres down in Buffalo. Islanders in town tomorrow. Matt Murray making his debut for this season anyway for the Leafs. And we're getting into a number of things, including some crazy stories happening throughout the country here in terms of hockey news and notes. So Mike Johnson will join us into the next hour. Overdrive continues, TSN 1050 M.
Leafs facing center crisis amid injuries, eyeing trade market for solutions. As the Toronto Maple Leafs battle through a growing injury list and a suspension, their lack of depth at the center position has become a glaring issue. According to Sportsnet's Elliot Friedman in his latest 32 Thoughts article, the Leafs are among the teams exploring trade options to bolster their lineup. This effort is coming amid increasing competition from teams like the Chicago Blackhawks and Nashville Predators, who have also set their sights on improving their center depth. Friedman didn't mince words about the Leafs' predicament. The teams currently focusing on centers, including Chicago and Nashville, must consider when others will enter the market. Toronto will undoubtedly be one of those teams, he wrote. While the Blackhawks and Predators may have an edge in terms of cap space and assets, the Leafs remain a team to watch as the season progresses. The Leafs situation is urgent, with up to 7 forwards currently unavailable due to injury or suspension. Ryan Reeves is serving a 5-game suspension, while key players like Austin Matthews, upper body, Matthew Knies, upper body, Kaye Jarnkrok, groin/sports hernia, David Kampf, lower body, Max Domi, lower body, and Max Pacioretty, lower body, are all sidelined. The team has even considered temporarily shifting Mitch Marner to the center position, highlighting the severity of their depth issues. this isn't just a short-term concern for the Leafs. Depth at center has been a persistent challenge for the team, and while stopgap solutions like Marner could help in the interim, the front office appears keen to explore longer-term fixes. For fans of the blue and white, this has been a recurring theme. The Leafs' center depth often becomes a problem at the worst possible times. James Myrtle of The Athletic recently added more fuel to the speculation, naming several potential trade targets who could help the Leafs address their issues. Among them is Ryan O'Reilly, a familiar name for Toronto fans. O'Reilly, who signed a 4-year, $18 million deal with Nashville in 2023, might be a trade candidate if the Predators' underwhelming start to the season, 6-11-3, 31st in the league, prompts a rebuild. However, his steep price tag and history with the Leafs, including rejecting a free agency offer less than 2 years ago, make this a complex and potentially unlikely move. Other names mentioned by Myrtle include former Leaf Nazem Kadri, currently with Calgary, as well as players like Michael Granlund, Nick Jugstad, Brock Nelson, Yanni Gourde, Trent Frederic, Radek Faksa, and Sean Kuraly. While some of these options seem more plausible than others, it's clear that general manager Brad Treliving will need to get creative to find the right piece without mortgaging the team's future. Cap space remains one of the biggest obstacles for the Leafs. Unlike teams like Chicago and Nashville, which have more flexibility and assets, Toronto is walking a financial tightrope. As Friedman noted, competition will intensify as cap-constrained teams strive to create room. For the Leafs, that could mean waiting for the market to develop further, a risky move given their current needs. The situation also highlights the Leafs' ongoing struggle to build a roster that can withstand the grueling nature of an NHL season. Injuries are an inevitability in hockey, but Toronto's current predicament underscores the importance of depth, a quality the team has struggled to consistently maintain. Looking back on recent years, the Leafs have often leaned heavily on their star players, particularly Matthews, Marner, and William Nylander. While these players have delivered in spades, the lack of reliable depth options has left the team vulnerable in critical moments. The current crisis at center is merely the latest example of this recurring issue. Some fans have called for more aggressive moves from Treliving, arguing that now is the time to strike while the team's core is in its prime. Others, however, are more cautious, pointing to the dangers of overpaying for short-term fixes. Striking the right balance will be key, especially as the Leafs aim to keep their championship window open. Despite the challenges, there's no denying that Toronto has the talent to be a contender, provided they can patch up their lineup. The ongoing rumors and speculation surrounding potential trades show that the Leafs are at least exploring every avenue to strengthen their roster. For fans of the blue and white, this moment feels like a pivotal point in the season. With a lineup ravaged by injuries and a tough schedule ahead, the Leafs must act decisively to avoid falling behind in the standings. The addition of a dependable center could be the difference between weathering the storm or watching another season slip away. Whether it's O'Reilly, Kadri, or another surprise name, one thing is certain: the Leafs are under pressure to deliver. And for a fan base as passionate and loyal as Toronto's, there's no room for excuses. The time to act is now, and Leafs Nation is watching closely. As the trade deadline approaches, the stakes couldn't be higher. Will Treliving pull off a move that solidifies the Leafs' status as a contender, or will the search for center depth become yet another chapter in the team's long history of what-ifs? Only time will tell, but one thing's for sure: it's never boring in Leafs land. As the Maple Leafs navigate this critical juncture, their fan base remains as vocal as ever. Toronto is a city that breathes hockey, and the pressure on Brad Treliving to make the right moves is immense. Every decision he makes, or doesn't make, will be scrutinized, from talk radio to social media, where Leafs Nation is already debating the merits of the various names being floated as potential trade targets. Among the louder debates is whether the team should prioritize a high-profile acquisition like Ryan O'Reilly or Nazem Kadri, or focus on a lower-cost, reliable center who can fill a supporting role without costing too many future assets. While O'Reilly's leadership and playoff experience make him an attractive option, his contract and recent history with the Leafs add layers of complexity to any potential reunion. Similarly, Kadri's gritty, two-way playstyle remains a fan favorite, but his cap hit and availability might render him an unrealistic target. Another factor complicating the Leafs situation is their tight salary cap. While Chicago and Nashville can make moves with relative ease due to their financial flexibility, Toronto must navigate a labyrinth of constraints to make any trade work. This likely means including salary retention or moving existing contracts to make room, which could drive up the cost of any potential deal. The question then becomes, how much are the Leafs willing to sacrifice to address their immediate needs? One potential trade partner generating buzz is the Seattle Kraken. Yanni Gourde, a dependable two-way center, has been mentioned as a possible target. Gould's versatility and championship pedigree from his time with Tampa Bay make him an appealing option. Seattle, however, is in playoff contention and may not be inclined to part with a key piece unless the Leafs can provide a substantial return. Another intriguing name is Brock Nelson of the New York Islanders. Nelson is a consistent scorer and reliable faceoff man, qualities that would undoubtedly bolster Toronto's center depth. However, the Islanders are notoriously cautious when it comes to trades, and prying Nelson away would likely require a significant package, including picks or prospects that the Leafs may be hesitant to part with. For all the trade talk, some analysts believe the solution might come from within. Sheldon Keefe has shown a willingness to experiment with his lineup, and players like Pontus Holmberg or Fraser Minton could be given an opportunity to step up. While relying on less experienced players carries risks, it might be the Leafs' only option if the trade market proves too costly or slow to develop. Adding to the Leafs' urgency is the timing. The Atlantic Division remains one of the toughest in the league, with teams like Boston, Florida, and Tampa Bay continuing to dominate. Any prolonged slump could see Toronto slip further down the standings, putting their playoff hopes in jeopardy. For a team with Stanley Cup aspirations, failing to address their weaknesses could have catastrophic consequences. Brad Treliving's history as a general manager suggests he's not afraid to make bold moves. His time with the Calgary Flames was marked by blockbuster trades, including the acquisition of Jonathan Huberdeau and Mackenzie Weegar in the Matthew Tkachuk deal. Leafs fans hope he brings that same decisiveness to Toronto, especially as the trade deadline looms. Beyond the immediate need for a center, this situation underscores a broader issue with the Leafs' roster construction. Depth has been a perennial concern, and while Toronto boasts some of the league's top-end talent, their reliance on a handful of stars has left them vulnerable in moments like this. Moving forward, addressing this imbalance must be a priority for the front office if the team is to achieve sustained success. As the Leafs head into a critical stretch of the season, the next few weeks could define their trajectory.